Mom, I just want to go. Hello? What is it? I'm sorry, I just want to see my family. I want to see my family again, please. What's your name? My name is Denise. I'm a beautiful husband, and I just want to see my kids again. Please, God, please protect me.
An Oceanside community becomes the site for a massive search and rescue operation when a 21-year-old woman vanishes from her home in the middle of the day, leaving her 2 young children behind. But police won't learn the savage truth about her disappearance until they get it from the most unlikely source. A desperate 911 call the young mother makes from her captor's cell phone.
Can you see, or do you have a blindfold on?
Now, in a shocking case that would leave a lasting impact on Florida law, police must fight through a sea of deception to bring her home before it's too late.
Hearing Denise's voice on that 911 call just rips your heart out. The fear and desperation to see her kids again are raw and honest. This is a mother fighting to survive, not just for herself, but for her family. Imagine the courage it took to make that call, knowing her captor was right there. This case isn't just a crime story, it's a gut punch that reminds us how quickly life can turn into a nightmare. What hits me hardest is how Denise's voice carries hope, even in that moment of terror. I hope we'll hold on to this story as it unfolds.
It's January 17th, 2008, and Nathan Lee is on his way home from work. He hasn't had many chances to call home that day. Just a couple of brief calls with his 21-year-old wife Denise, who is caring for Noah, their 2-year-old, and Adam, their 6-month-old infant. Last he heard, she was giving the boys haircuts on the back porch, but he hasn't talked to her in 3 or 4 hours. He calls again, debating whether to stop for groceries on his way home. But when Denise doesn't answer, anxiety creeps in. After 2 more calls go unanswered, his confusion turns to worry. Perhaps she took the kids to the park or went to the store herself, but it was odd of her to not carry her phone. With his worry turning slowly to fear, Nathan arrives home at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon. Denise's Toyota is in the driveway. That's a good sign. When he goes up to the front door, he tries the handle. It's locked. Another good sign. Everything seems to be normal. It's not until he unlocks the door and steps inside that he begins to see signs of trouble. Denise's cell phone is right by the door, plugged into the charger. It shows 7 missed calls, most of which Nathan himself made on the way home. Strangely, the windows are shut, even though Denise told him that morning that she was opening them for the cool January air. With every step he takes, he calls out to Denise, thinking that she's perhaps in the shower or otherwise occupied, but there's no answer. The most distressing sign of all, though, is his children. Adam and Noah are in Adam's crib together, something that Denise does not allow. Both of them need their diapers changed. He cleans them up, his mind racing to figure out where Denise could be. It's unthinkable that she would have left their children alone in the house, and besides, her purse, her keys, and her phone are all right here. He calls Denise's father Rick, but he hasn't seen her. Alarmed at the news that his daughter is suddenly missing, he promises Nathan that he'll be right over. In the meantime, Nathan's fear has coalesced into panic, and he can wait no longer. He calls 911.
Northport emergency?
Yes, I just got home from work, and my wife, I can't find her. My kids were in the house, and I don't know where she is. I've looked every single place, and I don't know.
Your kids are at home by themselves?
Yes. No, I know. I don't know where mommy is.
She's never done this before?
No. I don't, no. I mean, I've been home almost 10 minutes now. I haven't seen her.
All right, Nathan, I have an officer en route for you. If she does return home by the time we get their calls back, let us know, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
She was home then, but she didn't say anything.
Police eventually do talk to this girl. She reveals that she did indeed see something that afternoon, and what she tells them adds a horrifying new dimension to this already disturbing situation. Here she recounts that afternoon with investigators.
I was was sitting in my living room, and a green Camaro kept driving by my house. So I went outside, and he pulled into the neighbor's driveway. I made eye contact with him. He seemed normal, so I wasn't too suspicious about it. I just figured he was lost. I saw him. He had white hair, was tall. It was anywhere between like 1:30 and 2:30. So I would probably say around 2 o'clock. I was sitting here watching TV, and he drove by probably, I'd say at least 4 times, just driving like creeping back and forth, very slow.
The new information is, and it's 6:14 that evening. They get it in the form of one of the most chilling 911 calls imaginable.
911.
Hello? What is that?
I'm sorry, I just want to see my family.
Hello?
I want to see my family again, please.
Hello? Hello?
Please, I just want to see my family again. Let me go.
Hello?
Please let me go. Please let me go. I just want to see my family again. Okay.
Hello?
The woman on the other end of the line is frantic and desperate. That much is clear from the sound of her voice. But she's not immediately responsive to the operator's questions, which makes communication difficult.
What is the address that you're at? Hello, ma'am?
Where are we going?
I gotta go up and around now.
Up and around where?
Can you see that's exactly right? 4 streets, 5 streets over from your house.
I couldn't get anywhere.
What's your name, ma'am? Hello?
Please.
What's your name?
Please, my name is Denise. I'm not your beautiful husband, and I just want to see my kids again.
Your name's Denise? What's your last name?
Please.
Against all odds, it seems that Denise has somehow managed to call 911 without letting her captor know that she's on the phone. Now she's tasked with not only getting vital information to the operator, but do so without alerting him to her call. The operator begins to catch on to the dangerous game being played on the other end. But if the voice in the background belongs to Denise's kidnapper, he too appears to realize that something is amiss.
So I'm thinking, too, that he doesn't know.
Please, God. Please protect me.
Are you on I-75?
Where are we? I don't know. Please. Please.
Where are you at? Can you talk to her on I-75?
I don't know where your phone is. I'm sorry.
Denise, do you know this guy? She might have the phone laid down and not hear a thing I'm saying, too. He keeps saying about the phone.
I don't know where it is. Maybe if I could see it, help me find it.
What's your address? What's your home address, do you know?
I don't know. Please take me to my house. Please take me home. I'm okay, please.
Can you see, or do you have a blindfold on?
I can't see. Mommy.
Can they turn off the radio or turn it down?
I can't hear you. It's too loud. Hey, are you gonna help me? Are you gonna let me out now? Help me.
Don't. I lost them. Chris, I lost her. The guy grabbed the phone from her.
That 911 call from Denise is one of the most haunting things I've ever heard. She's whispering, pleading, trying to stay calm while her kidnapper is right there. It's chilling to think she was playing a deadly game to get help without being caught. The legal weight of this call is enormous. It's direct evidence of her abduction, her fear, and her fight. But it also makes you angry. How could someone do this to a young mother? Her strength in that moment is unforgettable, making what happens next even harder to bear.
Denise called 911 from. Investigators rush to his address.
Yeah, there is a TV on in the house and sounds like voices inside the residence. Have you got the vehicle there? Well, it could be in the garage. There's a two-car garage and then a single car garage that's next to it, and there's no windows, so I can't tell. But it does sound like there's voices on in the house. The neighbor directly next to him advises she believes he's possibly home and does park his car in the garage. He does still drive the Camaro and does still reside in Sardinia. And to her knowledge, he is home.
Police knock repeatedly on Michael's door, but no one answers. Knowing that too much time has been wasted already, a Northport police sergeant gives his men the go-ahead.
I want entry made on that house.
10-4, 2 marked officers at the front. Make entry. The 2 uniformed officers make entry.
Police force their way into the home of the man they now strongly suspect kidnapped Denise in broad daylight. Inside, though, they find a house that's not only empty of occupants, but of almost any furnishings whatsoever. Even so, someone has been here. The television is blaring, and so is a small radio. In the master bedroom, the police uncover a disturbing scene. A long piece of cloth is carelessly tacked over the window, perhaps to isolate the victim. As a rumpled Winnie the Pooh blanket lies on the floor, what officers discover next to this dismal makeshift bed is truly horrific.
We do have duct tape watered up in a bedroom with long strands that look like light brown hair.
In the kitchen trash, they uncover another matching wad of tape with similar strands of a woman's hair attached to it. The evidence clearly indicates that something troubling happened in this house today.
If you're real comfortable that there's nobody in the house, go ahead and clear out and secure. 10-4, everybody's cleared.
But at this point, finding Denise and returning her to safety is more urgent than ever. Finally, at a little past 9 o'clock that night, a Florida highway patrolman sees approaching headlights on one of Northport's main highways. Trooper Pope knows his vehicles, and those headlights have a distinctive shape. He stomps the gas and gets behind the vehicle, which immediately gets on I-75 going south. The orange street lights make it difficult to determine the color of the vehicle, but it's definitely a mid-90s Camaro.
Northport units, FHP has a vehicle stopped at 178 southbound, 178 southbound. Tag is verified by FHP.
It's him, Michael King. This day's agonizing manhunt has finally come to an end. The only question now, will Michael surrender and give up his victim, or will he engage in a final violent standoff with police? Trooper Pope is ready for either scenario. Michael has had this innocent woman in his clutches since at least 2:30 this afternoon, but his reign of terror has come to an end. Trooper Pope can't see a passenger, but it's dark and he's positioned well back from the Camaro. Denise could be tied up prone in the back seat or even in the trunk. His gun drawn on the suspect, Pope orders Michael out of the car, but the order falls on deaf ears. When Michael continues to disregard Pope's commands, he finally threatens to shoot at the vehicle. Following this threat, Michael finally steps out of the vehicle and is immediately placed under arrest, but he has chilling news to deliver. Pope observes that Michael claims to be a victim of a devious kidnapping. However, the evidence found on Michael and his vehicle reveal another story. Michael's jeans are wet from the waist down. His shoes are wet and caked with mud. In the car is a wet shovel, dirty with the same fresh mud. But worse than what he sees is what he doesn't see. There's no sign of Denise.
Units responding to the interstate. Michael King is 1012. The female is not 1012 with the vehicle.
With Denise still missing, Pope is in no mood to play nice. Michael once again claims to be a victim as Pope continues to badger him for Denise's location before putting him in the car. It's a bittersweet end to the manhunt. The gravity of the situation hits home when police find a heart-shaped ring in the back seat of the Camaro. When they show it to Denise's husband, his profound anguish speaks volumes.
Is this her ring?
Yes. That's not the first ring I gave her. First Valentine's Day.
How confident are you that's her ring?
100%.
Did the ring slip off her finger accidentally, or did she cleverly remove it at some point as evidence of her own abduction? Police can't be sure, but they know one thing.
When Nathan confirms that the heart-shaped ring is Denise's, you feel his world collapse. That ring wasn't just jewelry, it was a symbol of their love, a Valentine's Day gift. To find it in that monster's car is a cruel twist. Legally, it's damning evidence tying Denise to Michael King's Camaro, but emotionally, it's a dagger to the heart. As a viewer, you can't help but ache for Nathan, knowing he's holding on to hope while facing this crushing reality. It's a moment that makes this case so painfully human.
Just hours earlier. That's more than can be said for Michael's evolving story. In jail, he tells a corrections officer an astounding account of what happened to Denise that night, and if what he's told police thus far about the kidnapping is ridiculous, this story takes it to a whole new level.
He said that he met this girl behind his house in the back of the woods while they were...
Behind his house?
Behind his house. He goes, they had sex 3 times that day, and it was all consensual. He goes, we went out for lunch. When she wanted to go out for lunch, he goes, then she started getting worried about her husband or her boyfriend. He goes, I don't know who, if she was married or not, that somebody was going to catch them. So instead of going all the way to her house, he told her to get out of the car a couple blocks away on some dirt road or some road off to the side there in Northport. He didn't mention no street name or nothing like that. He goes, and then when she started walking towards her house, then a helicopter from Charlotte County came flying by, and that they're hovering pretty low, and that they shot Amber King.
Did he say when you say...
No, I'm sorry. He says, yeah, he just said that they shot her. I says, you're telling me that a policeman shot her? He goes, yes. I says, well, what did they do? He goes, they took off because they were scared.
King went on to explain that he reacted to this insane turn of events in the way any normal person would.
I says, well, what did you do? I says, did you actually see her get shot? He goes, yeah. He goes, I saw her. He goes, I saw the blood coming out of her blonde hair, out of her hair. And that by the time he got to her, that she was down on the ground, covered in blood. I said, well, what did you do? Did you try to help her? He goes, she was already dead. He goes, and I got all freaked out, scared. He goes,
He makes a heart-wrenching discovery. On January 19th, 2 days after Denise went missing, investigators are searching an abandoned development site when their canine catches a scent in the air.
I saw a large sand pile there, and we continued to walk. As I approached that sand pile area, it kind of opens out a little bit, and he pulled the leash out of my hand and took off into the little wooded area there. And that's when I saw the area and stopped, looked at it, showed my observer, Kim, and said, that just doesn't look right. And I said, see how the soil is different, starts from here, stops there, and the bahia grass was all laid across the top of it with the clay sand that you could see. I thought I saw several, packed footprints along the edge. Once I started seeing that, I said, we need to move out because this may be something, we don't want to contaminate it. So we moved out.
Detectives come to the scene and quickly find something that confirms their worst suspicions.
And they started to walk in. As they walked in, either Eckerd's foot kicked the little sand piles that were right before you walk in. They're like dinner plate size, little patches. They looked odd when we walked in. He either kicked it or his foot caught it, and when it flipped it over, there's all this blood underneath of that. And that's when we all said, whoa, and then everybody backed out.
Convinced about what they might find, investigators begin digging in a disturbed patch of land, and at 3 feet, they discover the naked body of a woman, buried in a shallow grave with a gunshot wound to the head. Nearby, a single 9mm shell casing is found in the overgrown lot, and it's a big one which could have changed the outcome of this tragedy.
I pulled up to a light. I don't know the name of the cross street, but I was on 41, and I heard some screaming.
On the day of Denise's kidnapping, authorities fielded several related calls to 911, one from Denise's husband Nathan, another from Harold, Michael King's cousin, and another from Harold's daughter Sabrina, and of course, a blood-curdling call from Denise herself. But there was another 911 call that night. It came in at 6:30 p.m., only 16 minutes after Denise's call. It was from a woman named Jane, who was alarmed enough about the car driving beside her to notify the police.
And I was at a stoplight, and a man pulled up next to me, and there was a child screaming in the car. Not a happy... What kind of vehicle is he in? It's a blue Camaro, in the 90s or early 2000s or something.
Okay, with a baby or?
No, it was a child. It was more than
how old?
You know what? It's dark, and I turned to look at him, and he's a white male, sort of light-colored hair, sort of plump. He's behind me now, and I tried to slow down so he could pass me and I could read his license plate.
Okay, ma'am, don't hang up, okay?
I'm not. Okay.
Jane's details didn't precisely match the information given to dispatchers and police that day, but they were certainly close enough that they should have generated some action. At 5'1" and 109 pounds, Denise could have easily been mistaken for a child when seen through dark windows and traffic, and whatever discrepancies there were, It's clear that Jane was seeing something alarming in the other car.
And there's a kid in the back seat, and they kept banging on the window. And it was banging on the window. And screaming.
And crying.
And screaming. Like screaming. And not a happy scream, like, get me out of here scream.
Given the fact that law enforcement had no knowledge whatsoever about Michael's location at that time, Jane's in-progress sighting could have made all the difference.
Okay, now it's green, and the green arrows, and he's going now.
He's turning left on Toledo Blade.
Yeah, do you want me to turn? Try to follow him, or?
Okay. Does he want her to follow him? Okay, can you turn?
Oh. He just turned on Toledo Blade. I don't know if I can catch up. There's a bunch of traffic, and I can't get over.
Jane doesn't have the opportunity to give chase, but the dispatchers have more than enough information to pass along to officers. Unfortunately, the information never gets to them because by this time, King had left Northport and entered Charlotte County on US 41, where Jane had spotted the Camaro. However, her call had passed into Charlotte County despite Sarasota County and Northport officers handling the case. Confusion reigned in the dispatch center that night as the supervisor tried to establish a single patch between all three areas handling the case. This, combined with the shift change that was happening at the time, led to her call being misfiled. Police on the ground and in the air, all of whom were desperately searching for Michael King's green Camaro at that time, never got the information. Michael didn't get pulled over for another 2.5 hours, by which time Denise was already dead. According to documents from the internal investigation, a Charlotte County dispatcher later acknowledged she messed up and was suspended for 60 hours for failing to send deputies to respond to Kowalski's call. Another dispatcher was suspended for 36 hours.
Now, we've all heard screaming. We've heard rollercoaster screams, screams of delight, horror movie screams. I've never heard a scream like this in my life.
Could Jane's call have made the difference between Denise's life or death that night? Her husband Nathan certainly thought so. In the coming years, he would form a foundation in his deceased wife's name, aimed at improving 911 systems and training across the country. His efforts would help push the Denise Amber Lee Act through the Florida legislature 2 years after Denise's murder. According to news sources, Governor Charlie Crist signed the bill into law in the summer of 2010, mandating state certification and standardized training for all 911 operators. 2 years after that, Nathan Lee filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office for their failure to handle the 911 call properly. He and his family walked away with an undisclosed settlement, but nothing can ever compensate for losing Denise. In the meantime, the wheels of justice moved against the only man responsible for Denise's death. Michael King was convicted of premeditated murder, and on December 4, 2009, nearly 2 years after Denise made her courageous and chilling 911 call from the inside of Michael's Camaro. In agreement with the unanimous jury recommendation, the judge sentenced Michael Lee King to death. Today, 16 years after Denise's tragic murder, Michael sits on death row at Union Correctional Institute in Rayford, Florida.
The fact that Jane's 911 call was mishandled is infuriating. Denise was screaming for help, banging on that window, and no one came. That call could have saved her life, but a dispatch failure disappointed her. It's a stark reminder of how critical systems can fail at the worst moments. Nathan's fight for the Denise Amber Lee Act shows his strength, turning unimaginable loss into change. This case isn't just about tragedy. It's about the ripple effects of courage and the need for justice, not just for Denise, but for everyone who dials 911.